Hey, Christoph here at Serious Land Capital, vacant land funding partner. Today, it's pretty frustrating info that we just got back for a deal that we've been looking to acquire for several months now. So, this is actually a two parcel, well, really three parcel, but two of the three parcels are connected. They would be sold together. But yeah, two parcel deal, both residential lots that initially came into our system last summer. I want to say we initially started looking at this one in early August of 2024. And the main issue with getting these closed was we needed surveys done for them, for confirm that we'd be able to move forward. We couldn't even get a title commitment outside of getting the surveys done. So we're going to have to incur some potential sunk costs anyway. One of them might not have been completely necessary to close on, but once we saw some existing plat maps, the roads were just out of sorts. They didn't look accurate based on the current map of the neighborhood, and we just figured, and there were some easements that were going through, and figured, hey, if we're going to get one survey, let's get this other one surveyed, prevent some possible end buyer confusion anyway here. But it was pretty steep costs, I think it's $7,500 for both the surveys, and they weren't huge lots either. One's 5.5 acres, the other roughly 10 acres or so. So usually you can find some uh, surveys for much larger acreage, especially in places like Texas and so forth, that are going to cost a fraction of what it costs there. But that was just the going rate, and it just took forever. So I think we spent, or they promised that they would get the surveys done within 35 business days. So, equates to 7 weeks. But then on one of the properties, there were just incorrect um, uh, legal descriptions. And so they had to keep going back to official records and sort things out. But it was just like pulling teeth trying to get communication from the survey company. And we had to pay half the fees up front. And I'm always kind of hesitant about throwing in larger sunk costs into deals, because yeah, markets can change so quickly. And this has happened to us in the past, where we had like a 6 month lag time from when a deal came into us, and similar issues, just crazy amount of work trying to get surveys done and replat and all that, and endless approvals and delays within the local municipality, that the market shifted on us by the time we actually took it to market. But because we had so many sunk costs into the deal, kind of incentivizes a pressure to move forward. So we got smarter from our past experience towards, like, okay, every month, 6 weeks or so, we're checking in. Has the market really shifted that much on us? We have a broker involved, seeing, okay, how are things moving? Is land still dispoing properly in the area, and any key changes here? And so we're paying more active attention. But the problem is that even if it shifts in a bit more negative direction, we're still going to be more incentivized to complete the deal, even if the margin slims a bit, because of the significant sunk cost that we've thrown into a deal. 7 grand it's not nothing. Because if you bail on the deal, I mean, that's just a straight loss. Is it as bad as a loss as if you take a bad deal and lose money on something? Yeah, probably not. But nevertheless, I kind of hate having that pressure built into a deal where we were not expecting nearly that amount of lag time. And ultimately, that's our fault. We should have figured out, okay, what's kind of typical length of times to get surveys done and so forth. And we thought, okay, still, 7 weeks, it's not terrible. But then we only found out that any survey that gets done, usually you get a survey done, you can throw the map over to the title company if they need it. They can look it over and approve whatever they need to do on the title commitment. In this particular location, the surveys have to go through a full approval process through the local planning and zoning department, and then a subsequent recording to the official records. And then and only then can the title company actually consider them viable for whatever title work they need to do and prepping the full commitment. And so we got these surveys done. Again, we had an even longer delay trying to get that one where there was all the legal description issues going on. And then, again, the fault of us for not understanding the full process. And this is what I always remark on. We operate nationally, but we have to be even extra conservative because so many times we can get caught up in, local issues in terms of timelines and various approvals that, when you're trying to run a business in all kind of corners of the U.S., occasionally it can be easy to get tripped up and, not cross every T and dot every I when it comes from a procedural standpoint. And local realtors aren't always going to know all this either. So, mea culpa on our side. But again, ultimately, we already sunk so many funds into the deal. Plus, now we're going to have to go through this approval process, and that would have required a lot of physical mailing and so forth on our side. So, the survey company who we were already disappointed with, we just hired their services for, a fee to get the planning and zoning to approve. But this was right before Thanksgiving, and they quoted, 4 to 6 week timeline, maybe delayed because of, just the holidays, just, worst time of year to be submitting something, especially to government agencies. But again, we were so far along. Okay, let's get that started. And we did get good news that one of the two properties was approved, but then still needed to go through the recording process. Usually most counties, recording that shouldn't take more than, 1 or 2 business days. It's been taking close to a week, having to be hand delivered and all that. It's so backwards from, again, kind of procedure perspective here. But then the survey team updated that one of the surveys was still being approved by planning and zoning. And so I was inquiring, all right, what's the delay here? Is there any type ETA? And so I had my team call in, and we were told from the planning and zoning that this other survey was only submitted last week. And so we weren't expected to get a approval response until another month from now, mid-February, when we initially thought we were submitting both of these at the same time in mid-November. And none of this was communicated to us, to the survey companies. I kind of ripped into them a bit via an email. Of course, backing off to a certain degree in case, hey, I'm could be ignorant of the local procedure here. Maybe planning and zoning can only take one survey at a time and you have to submit each separately. But our understanding was that both would be submitted at the same time. I regret that, we didn't just handle the process on our own. It seems like it could have been done faster. And, the fact that we had to figure this out on our own rather than this being communicated to us, is just very frustrating, to be frank. I'm like, can you guys rectify this? Is there any way we get some, discount money back? Who knows? Plus, we still haven't closed on the property yet anyway. So the seller, who's already been getting cagey about not getting their money in all these months later, now we're going to have to build in another month delay when it's entirely possible that she could just walk and we're stuck having paid for all these surveys and no property in our name yet. So, it becomes a risky game when there are some of these initial requirements even to close deals where you might not have title. And we couldn't even have acquired title without getting the surveys anyway. And just these endless delays that we just did not expect or were even promised in this latest iteration of the deal here. So again, this puts even more pressure on us from just a sunk cost perspective, as well as the market potentially turning on us even more when we've already put so much time and effort into these deals, where it's still like, I really regret kind of getting involved in this deal, but now that we're so committed, so long as we still think there's a pretty reliable margin in the deal, checking in with our broker, re-looking at comps and so forth, okay, we're still going to move forward. But I do know that subconsciously, I'm going to be a bit more permissive towards, potentially more negative recent comps, because I know that we've already committed so many resources to this deal. I really, really hate getting stuck into a place like this with deals. Not a good feeling. Try to avoid it, but sometimes it happens, and you just kind of have to learn and move on. So just thought that I would share that lesson. Hopefully this helps you all. Of note, again, funding, you can get it at SeriousLand.capital. Land Daily Diligence, zero cost reviews on Mondays and Thursdays, landpricer.ai for our simple and accurate land pricing tool. Also, I want to mention that I do have a discount code for Dave Deniston's On Conference. I know I mentioned a couple times in this podcast. So you can just, easily Google search Dave Deniston Land On Conference, and it'll pull up the site for the August 8th and 9th larger conference in Minneapolis this year. And you do have to apply to go. You need to be earning at least 6 figures in revenue. Most solid land investors should be able to pull that off. And assuming you do get accepted for that, for the actual payment link, you can just use my last name, all lowercase Duff, Duff, and get $200 off of your cost of admission there. That's the only large conference that I'm planning on going to this year. It transformed my business. Initially going, I've been to 4 on conferences now, clearly a fan. So I hope to see you there. But with that, we will end this podcast today. See you tomorrow.